I fell in love with sculpting an adorable milk cow as a low-relief project to teach myself realistic animal sculpture, and I would love to show you my creative process as I share my tips, tricks, materials, and tools along the way. I've shared some attempts at low-relief projects before, and this time I want to sculpt my very first non-horse animal in low relief. One of my overall goals this year is to sculpt more animals, both in realistic and stylistic approaches. I'm creating a small portrait of a brown Swiss milk cow in the realism style. Last year I went to an agricultural fair and I found this absolutely adorable milk cow and knew immediately I wanted to sculpt her. Like, look at that cute sleepy face. I want to continue broadening my sculpture projects beyond freestanding sculptures, and so I certainly welcome the opportunity to practice more low reliefs. Also, I figured this would be a great time to try Super Sculpey Firm polymer clay and see how it compared to the plastilina I used for the McCullough horse relief. You might remember I said I felt maybe that brand of plastilina was too soft for my low relief projects, so let's see how Sculpey Firm compares. At the time I'm filming this, I'm also trying it out for a horse portrait, which will be another video. Polymer clays like Super Sculpey require conditioning before sculpting, and that can be tricky with a firm clay without a conditioning machine like a Boston press. I found that working with smaller pieces at a time is easier on my hands. I can roll, squish, press, and roll the smaller pieces until they're nice and flexible, and then join them as needed to make myself enough clay. With it fully conditioned, it will now be easy to work with and will bake properly later. I really want to challenge myself to sculpt this piece with subtractive techniques as much as possible. So, carving to get the shape rather than adding more clay. I want to see if this helps me keep it flatter, as I would love to create reliefs that are really flat. It saves on resin costs if I choose to mold them later. Right away I'm noticing it carves much differently than the Sargent Art brand of plastilina clay. I'm definitely feeling a lot of resistance and it's not pilling as easily. I'm noticing it can crumble a bit as I sculpt if it's been a day or so after I conditioned it, so it wasn't bad, and it was all easy to fix with a little reshaping or smoothing. And by the way, I'm using different wax carving tools, and as always, you can find the tools and materials I use listed in all of my videos below. I started carving the muscles and skin wrinkles of the cow with my pointed spoon-shaped wax carving tool. This is quickly becoming my favorite of my wax tools as it's so versatile. Using the sides of the spoon carves easily, the backside smooths easily, and the point makes for a nice line work like the wrinkles. I can vary the sharpness or depth of the lines that create wrinkles based on the angle I hold this tool. It's kind of like 3 tools in one. As I start the muzzle, I switch to the additive sculpting method as I add blobs of clay. I start with small, simple shapes and adjust as I go along. This is my first cow sculpture, and as I'm currently unfamiliar with the mathematical proportions of a cow's facial anatomy, I instead use a simple method. I take note of the size of the eyes, and I ask myself, how far apart are they? Is the distance another 3 or 4 eyes apart? How far away is the muzzle? As I ask myself these questions, I begin forming the shapes of a realistic portrait for an animal I have never sculpted before. It's a handy tip that continues to work well for me. Just after a little work, those blobby shapes are coming together to create a cow. I can actually recognize it as a cow. Yay! A few pieces of clay noodles wrap around the top and bottom parts of the eyeballs. I will always be in awe of just how quickly a couple of simple pieces of clay can really bring the eyes to life like that. Tiny adjustments with the ball stylus really brings her personality to life. Super Sculpey does pill on me a bit, so I wipe it away with a soft paintbrush, and sometimes I use a tiny bit of Gamsol to help smooth everything out as I'm doing here. The lighting in my studio is especially joyful today. I use the ball stylus to finish the details, draw fine lines to represent the fur texture, and dimple some interesting texture into the background. To bake, I follow the directions on the clay packaging. For Super Sculpey Firm, the directions say to bake at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch thickness of clay. I place it inside a baking tin that I'll cover with a tin lid, and I make sure to use an additional oven-safe temperature gauge to make sure my oven reaches the correct temperature. The gauge also helps me watch for any heat fluctuations. And now for the results. Look at her! I love this sleepy little cow. I'm really in love with how different the subtractive carving makes her look compared to my other low reliefs that were sculpted mostly with the additive methods. The render style is kind of crispy. Sculpting in a firm clay was indeed a lot easier to get that crisp level of detail. I'm hoping to try firm plastilina and see if the same holds true. I hope this brought a little joy to your day, and if you'd like to join me on my sculpting journey this year, as well as my other animal projects and other media, I'd love to take you along if you'd like to subscribe. And with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Bye!